Bonjour, everybody. Hi, this is Neshi Locott. Welcome to Star Nation's organization. This is a live stream on our main fan page, and this is all about today's energy, the card draw for today. So bonjour, that's hello in Potawatomi, and welcome. So today's Monday, beginning of a new work week. And, I have to say, it is pretty darn nice here in Tomah, Wisconsin. I'm going to check the temperature because it's kind of cool out. It's 68, which isn't bad, right? We have a high of 79 today. Yay. It's one of those days that we call here in Wisconsin. It's a beautiful Wisconsin morning. It's got clear blue skies, light blue, and, it's no humidity. It's almost 70 degrees. Perfect day. Good morning, Robin McCarthy. Thanks for joining. And Elise, good morning to you too. So today is a Monday, and I know that there's some people out there who kind of dread Monday because, it's start of their work week. I have to say, that, the way my days go here is pretty much the same. And so it doesn't really matter if it's Monday or Sunday or Wednesday, or it's it's the same. It's sometimes, depending on the when Paul gets off, the days how they fall, his days off. Sometimes our weekend could be like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and so it's just a name of a day is all it is around here anyway. So I hope you guys are doing well. Good morning, Robin. Today is all about listening again. We had a couple cards in May that were about listening and deep listening, and different ways to listen, right? And the card draw this morning is a card that actually brought back some really nice memories for me about California and taking a class with one of my teachers. And today is a talking stick. I moved my light and now we're getting a little bit of a glare. Maybe if I move it back. Yeah, there we go. Talking stick. It's about viewpoints and options, right? And here's the artwork. There we go. The artwork. And hopefully it's in focus. It's a talking stick. And all of the colors, of course, represent the medicine wheel in the image, and the talking stick. Good morning, Mary. Thanks for joining us. The talking stick. Why it brings back fond memories is because the first time I remember utilizing a talking stick in a non-university or academic way was in California. And it was much more relaxed, I would say. The anticipation wasn't quite as high. When you're using the talking stick on a university, because I used to work for two different universities, and utilizing the talking stick both with students and also with faculty. Sometimes, in the university system, it's depending on the group, is much more formal, and there's a lot more thought processes going on. And this is the reason why we introduced the talking stick, not just to a group of students, but also to some faculty members, was to have a discussion group where you really had to listen to what people were saying, rather than trying to formulate your response and thinking of questions to ask them while they were speaking, right? And we do that a lot here in the United States. I don't know about other countries, but we certainly do that a lot here. When you're having a conversation with somebody, many times they're not really listening to what you're saying, but rather trying to formulate in their own mind different points that they want to make in response, rather than listening. Yeah. Maggie Ryan, good morning, Maggie. Thank you for joining us. And by the way, a little happy belated birthday. I saw the post late last night and I thought, oh, Maggie's birthday. So happy birthday to Maggie. Um, and hello, good morning, Judy. I'm so glad you're with us. And Mato, thank you for joining. I did see your request to join. I think it was the Radio Network, the closed group. I saw that this morning, and I'll get to accepting your request as soon as we're done with this live stream. Yep. And Elise is saying, know nothing about talking stick. Love to know more. Okay. Well, Jamie Sams, I think, did a really, really good job in describing what a talking stick is. And as I was reading her information, I had to keep reminding myself is that she was really relaying information to us in 1990. And the elders that she learned from would have been like almost a generation older, right? And what they're referring to is really our ancestors and how they use the talking stick. And the talking stick literally is a stick, and it's decorated and it's used in large groups of people who are speaking. Many times it was used in gathering of the council, like Native Americans. Prior to the federal government taking over, when our ancestors would gather decisions to be made, many of the tribal leaders came together and they were called a council. And so it would have clan leadership, it would have medicine people, it would have the holy person or people, it would have leaders of the different societies, the warrior societies, the women's societies. And so the leadership would gather to listen and to add their experience or their knowing before a final decision was reached. And so the talking stick was valuable in the point that the person who had the stick literally had the floor, and they would be sharing what they had to say from their heart, their thoughts, and they were not interrupted. They weren't interrupted for questions. People sat and listened and listened and listened. And one of the things that with a talking stick is because you're paying attention, chances are of repeated information doesn't quite happen as often. If you hear the same information is coming from a different perspective, rather than the same information being told over and over and over again, right? And so our ancestors used this method of communication so that every voice would be heard. Every voice, even if it was in opposition to each other, they still sat and they listened and they listened. I think it is a learned behavior. I do. To pay attention and some of it is out of respect. It is to be able to really listen to someone and give them your undivided attention. It doesn't happen very often these days, but you know what? When it does happen, can't you feel it? You feel the connection, right? You feel the connection. Elise is saying, I think I was born way too late. My heart is Native American big time. No, you're not. You weren't born late. You were born just in time, at the right time, because I do believe that we're exactly where we're meant to be when we're meant to be. And so if your heart is connected to more indigenous ways, it's possible, Elise, that you are remembering your ancestors, whether they came from this continent or not. Indigenous people from all over the world we had a common thread that ran through us, no matter what continent we were on. Indigenous, and we're indigenous to somewhere, right? Whether your grandparents, great grandparents, maybe 7 generations ago first arrived in what they called the New World, doesn't matter. At some point, your ancestors were indigenous to some continent, and as indigenous people, we have had a common thread that runs through. It's the way that we connected to Grandmother Earth, to Grandfather Sky. We may have used different words for them, and how we took care of each other. You know, there were some commonalities all the way across. So, yeah, it's a possibility. Hey, Polly Joe. Elisa's saying, I think I told you my great grandmother was Cherokee. Yes, you did. And so, we carry those memories in our DNA. We do. And even when we're talking about today's card, which is the talking stick, many Native cultures here on Turtle Island use this method of communication. And so even though you might not know the information mentally, to be able to describe it to somebody, your soul knows. There's a part of you that recognizes it, remembers that vibration, remembers what it felt like, right? So I think that is just cool in itself. So the talking stick, Jamie Sam says that the talking stick is passed from person to person as they speak. Only the person holding the stick is allowed to talk during that time period. It allows all council members to present their sacred point of view. So that means that everybody's point of view mattered. Everybody's. Even though you might not agree with it and there was some dissension around that particular topic, their point of view was still valuable. It was a way to be able to look at a situation from many different perspectives and to be able to allow that information to be shared, right? Many times, when we're reading a book, sometimes that entire book is not necessarily exactly for us and what we resonate with. It's possible that the truth that we recognize in that book that we resonate with may be only a sentence or two, or maybe just a paragraph, and the rest of the book really doesn't resonate with us at all. Had we not read that book, we would have never read that paragraph or that sentence. That might be new information for us, or a way to see, quote unquote, see another point of view, right? Same thing. And so she says that it recognizes the value of each speaker. And our ancestors, what they would do is they would actually introduce the talking stick to the children, and have the children use the talking stick and have discussions amongst themselves. And so they would start it very, very young, so that the kids would sit in circle. That's what we would call it, right? Today, that they would be in circle, and they would learn how to communicate using the talking stick. And so by the time they got to be older adults, they were very used to the method of the talking stick as part of a communication in a large group. And I think the learning to listen to another person carries over to even other conversations, right? Conversations that are just maybe between one or two people, conversations in small groups, right? So we're still giving our attention to whoever it is who is speaking. You might not have the talking stick, but the way you listen carries over to other areas, other conversations. Yeah. I was going to say something, but I think I'll wait because there's something coming up that Jamie says, and I can add that there. She says the talking stick may be used when they teach children, hold counsel, make decisions regarding disputes, when they're planning powwows or large gatherings. It's used in storytelling circles and also to conduct a ceremony. And in those really large gatherings, the people may not be in what we call coming into the circle, right? It may be just a gathering, and the stick would go from person to person. The person who would want the stick or want to have their say would indicate that they want the stick, right? And so the stick would be passed to them. In more formal settings and with not a large group of people, you can be in circle and the stick gets passed clockwise around the circle. If you don't have anything to say or you don't feel like it's that it's the right time for you to speak, you can have the stick pass you by. And the stick keeps going around and around and around until everybody has had the opportunity to have their voice heard. So you might be kind of waiting, feeling is the time right to say what I need to say, to add what I need to add. And so the stick keeps coming around. If you choose not to say anything, not to add to the conversation, that's okay. That's all right. You had your opportunity. So you can't go away and say that I didn't get a chance to talk. You just chose not to. That was your choice because the stick came to you probably more than once, right? And, I kind of like that. I do, because whether or not you think you have a dissenting point of view doesn't really matter. What matters is that you had the opportunity to say what you felt that you needed to say, and what you shared was just as important as the person sitting next to you or across from you. It was valuable no matter what. And so if you chose not to, then that's okay. But that was your choice. Yeah. Let's see. Elise is saying, okay, Miss Non-Show, look at the following you're getting. Thank you, Elise. I appreciate that. So how do you find your stick? I like that question, Elise. In fact, see, I get all these ideas for classes. I've got to sit down and start actually putting them on the calendar and actually teaching them rather than just the thought going through my head. All right. So a talking stick is made from an actual tree stick. Okay. So in the old days, what they would do, if a leader was going to make their own stick, and every leader had their own talking stick, they would be asking their spiritual team, that's what we call it, or I call it, they would be asking for assistance. So what kind of tree? Because every tree person, the tree nation, each tree holds certain vibration, certain characteristics, right? And so like the maple would probably be used for children, because think about a maple tree, right? The characteristics of a maple tree. A rowan tree or ash, a lot of that is about protection, right? And so you would look at the qualities of the tree and get direction of which kind of tree you should be selecting from. And personally, I would take a branch that had already fallen off the tree rather than cutting the branch. And then leaving an offering for the tree and being thankful, right, for the stick. And then you get to decorate it. And sometimes the information will come to you in a dream. Remember, yesterday we talked about different kinds of dreams, right? You may have one of those dream time visions, conversations with spirit. I call that spirit traveling, and that you're going into another dimension to gather information from spirit. That might be one way. So your talking stick is symbolic. Cardinal just landed in the tree next to the building here. Is symbolic and represents the kind of work that you're going to be doing with that stick, and the people that you're going to be sharing it with. Good morning, Polly Joe. I'm so glad you're here. And Jolene's here too. Good morning, Jolene. And Jocelyn. Oh my goodness, Jocelyn, thank you for being here. I always like to see you guys in the chat room. It's so much fun. And so the talking stick that you'd be creating would have some sort of decoration on it, right? You could have certain colors of the beads, let's say, for instance, or certain kinds of feathers on it. You could have certain kind of animal skin or fur on it, depending on what you're going to be using the stick for, what kind of conversations. Like if you have a woman's group, right? If you have a woman's group and you want to introduce the talking stick to them, what kind of conversations do you have there? You might want to choose an oak tree because of the stability and how old oak trees get. A lot of wisdom in those oaks. Think, and especially if you carry European descent, the Druid information could be woven into this very easily. And so you would be decorating and using this particular talking stick for whatever group that you're going to be using it for. So it's a great question, Elise. Yeah, willow. Well, willow, think about willow, right? It's a very feminine tree, very feminine. And it carries a lot of water, needs a lot of water to survive. And so, I'm still on the track of the women's group. That might be a good selection that spirit would be nudging you toward to use for that kind of group. So, yeah, you can be very artistic. You can certainly be very creative in making your talking stick and using it. Jamie Sams has a short list of the qualities of the tree nation. She says white pine is a peace tree. This is all according to Seneca belief. Okay, so this is Seneca. The qualities of each type of the trees. She says birch symbolizes truth, evergreens, the continued growth of all things. Cedar is cleansing. Aspen is asking to see clearly. The maple could be used for children's counsel since it represents gentleness and sweetness. The elm about wisdom. The rowan or mountain ash for protection. The oak for strength. Cherry for high emotion or love. And the fruit trees are about abundance. Walnut or pecan for gathering of energy or beginning new projects. And so, even I'm thinking about, the apple tree, right? And the symbolism of what apple brings to people. And also, apple is a very pagan use of the tree too. So, you want to tap into, this is my advice, my 2 cents, is that if you're going to make a talking stick, is to use your ancestry. Ask your ancestors about it and your connection to the trees and your connection to colors and those kinds of things. You came into this particular physical existence with the lineage and the DNA that you did for a reason. It wasn't just by coincidence or haphazard. There's a reason for it, right? And to connect with them and ask them for assistance, because this is what your intention is for this talking stick. And I would even get in contact with my spiritual committee, who is standing all around here, is to ask them, maybe bring you something in dream time, sleep time, There's many, many ways you can do this. You just have to do it, right? Right. Elisa's saying it would be awesome, class, to go find sticks and decorate them together. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. And that was going through my head, Elise. It's like, because we had a class to make walking staffs once, but and years and years ago, Minnie Cansman and I and Deb Swinghome, we were teaching classes together, and Deb led a class to make magic wands. Yeah, but see, this is very similar, right? Because the talking stick is very symbolic of, and it holds the medicine for that particular group and how you're going to use it. I think that's one of the reasons why, talking sticks have been around for generations after generations. Now, there's also a second part to this. Hang on. If your talking stick is being used in a group that is just not sharing information that they may have to help make a decision for a group of people, right? Let's say your talking group is more like a question and answer. For instance, the talking groups that I've led had to do with the environment and what they individually, how they chose, how they could assist in the protection of the environment in their community from their home, right? And so it wasn't necessarily looking for information to be shared that was technical or even, stuff that could be researched, is what I'm saying. It wasn't that kind of information. It was more personal information. And so it was asking a question that someone would have to answer. And so what you're looking for in the answer is clarity and truth. And so you may use a feather for that in the different birds. The one that I always use is an eagle feather. But you could, if your group has more about answering questions, that you're looking for clarity and truth, you would want to use a feather rather than the talking stick. The feather holds the same reason to use it is so that the person who's holding the feather has the opportunity to express what they are wanting to express. Their expression is just as valuable as anyone else in the circle or in the group, and you're giving them an opportunity to answer the question. So there's a little bit of a difference between using the talking stick and using a feather, and it's not really called a talking feather. It is called the Seneca. What do they call it? They use the answering feather, is the what they call it. Yeah. So there is just a slight difference, but the same thing is true. Is that whatever feather that you choose to use? Let's say you're going to use turkey feather, because that would probably be the most easy to obtain and have no issues with not being Native American and having an eagle feather, right? That would be a little illegal, a little bit. And so the feather can be decorated as well, and as the answering feather. Yeah. So there's two different ways to be able to hear someone speak and give them your undivided attention. Jamie Sams was talking about the answering feather. She says, usually an eagle feather and represents high ideals, truth as viewed from the expansive eye of the eagle, and the freedom that comes from speaking total truth to the best of one's ability. So you're also providing an opportunity, when you're using an answering feather, an opportunity for someone to speak their truth. And it's almost like giving them permission. although that's not what you're doing. You're giving them an opportunity. But some people may feel that they need permission to do that, and having the feather gives them that, and gives them the opportunity to express themselves. Yeah. Yep, it burned. Elisa's saying your incense went out. Yeah, it's actually white sage, and it burned completely. Yeah, that's good. All right. So, and Judy is saying, how long is the talking stick? Is that like a walking stick or smaller? That would be smaller. I would say anything from probably a good 4 to 12 inches is what you need. Yeah. You don't want it so big, that it would be hard to travel with. If you go from circle to circle to help facilitate a talking circle, because that's what I do, to facilitate. And so you'd want to have something that is rather portable, and yet, big enough to have the presence, some groups, some nations use stones. Some nations use shells. It depends on your region. It depends on your culture, really. And what you hold as a high importance in your culture. And so, if you live by the ocean, it might be driftwood, it might be some sort of shell, it could be something given to you from the ocean, So you'd really have to be aware of your surroundings and work with nature. Be co-creative. So let's see. She talks about how she got her first talking stick and how it came to her from spirit. She says the talking stick is a tool that teaches each of us to honor the sacred point of view of every living creature. If we listen to the wisdom and of teaching of others, we can then broaden our understanding and relate in a new manner to others. So in other words, when you're listening to someone and you're not judging whether what they're saying is good or bad, is that it's valuable, just like everyone else's opinion and what they're expressing is valuable, that we go in with a more of an open mind and an open heart. That doesn't mean that everything that is said is going to be taken to answer or to make the decision. But it helps broaden the outlook, because as an individual, you can't think of everything that's going to happen or be in the context of a subject. If there is no possible way that you as an individual could have the insight to the whole thing 360 degrees. There's no way. But when you start adding people to the conversation and they bring in their experience, their life experiences, their innate gifts, they start adding to those in layers. And so that maybe it's possible that you can understand a topic or a subject in a deeper way because you added the experience from others, right? What's it? Two heads are better than one. Is that an old cliche, an old saying? Now, I have to let you know that in modern day, when tribal nations here on Turtle Island meet, they're governed by, and especially if they're federally recognized, when they go to make decisions for the entire nation, like for me, for the Potawatomi Nation, my elected officials, the tribal council and our president, when they meet, and especially when they meet with the tribal members, the general council, we don't use a talking stick. That's more of a traditional way of doing things. in the governmental setting, where they're using Robert's Rules of Order. It is based on a non-native format. And it's because the way that the native governments are set up is to replicate the U.S. government. And so Robert's Rules of Order is used. And not to say that that's a bad thing, because it still gives everyone the possibility to have their say. But what I've noticed is that it doesn't mean that people are listening. It doesn't mean that the person who is speaking, that what they're saying is an equal value. And so I just wanted to let you know that not all Native groups, when they meet in modern day, use the talking stick. The talking stick is seen more as a traditional way of communicating. Now, it doesn't mean that the General Council or the individual subcommittees don't use the talking stick. It's just that when we have a General Council meeting, that means all the people are there. It just means that they're going to be using a different format. So the application, I'm going to show this card because maybe some people didn't get a chance to see it. The talking stick. It's about viewpoints and options. Love the artwork on these cards. And for those people who don't know, we're using Jamie Sam's cards. It's the Sacred Path cards. So the application. Jamie Sams writes, the talking stick reminds us of the validity of other viewpoints and teaches us how to listen and apply what we hear. We're being reminded not to interrupt each other, that everyone is imparting their perspective and their wisdom. We are taught through listening that life has millions of options and answers to a dilemma. That there's options out there if we listen, right? If the talking stick has appeared in your spread, you are probably not allowing yourself any options in your present situation, or have become too stuck on one idea to see any further than your self-created tunnel. In other words, you've got blinders on, right? You're just seeing really narrow. And so the talking stick that we got today, and as we watch how the energy unfolds for us today, is where to be aware, right? To look at where is it that I am not seeing a bigger picture. And for me, because I'm working on the magazine, that's why we have so many people assisting with the magazine, is because after a while, I can't see a mistake because I've looked at it through it a couple of times and I don't see it anymore. It's like the forest and the tree thing, right? I can't see the forest for the trees. And so when you have other people come in to be able to look at the same subject or topic, they may bring in a fresh idea, fresh eyes to say, oh, see that. Do you want to use that word there, T-H-E-R-E or T-H-E-I-R, there and there, or there? So it's little things like that I need fresh eyes for somebody to look at it. And so what Jamie is saying is that getting the information from this card, the energy from this card. So for today, as the energy flows, is how we get an opportunity to either bear witness to it or to participate and look at, do we have something going on in our life that we're not really looking at it from more than one perspective? She says, open up and listen to the opportunities that the talking stick says are coming your way. Remember, all life signals and or options are available to those who will hear. You're being given an opportunity to grow through the alternative route. And she's suggesting that you use this gift now. So the alternative route, so sometimes just because we think that something should be done a certain way, because we've always done it that way, doesn't mean that it fits anymore. And so when someone else comes in and they say, well, why don't you try putting it over there? Or what does it look like if you placed it over here? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, that works so much better. I didn't think of it that way. Alternative route. Hi, Amy Daniels. Thanks for joining us. And she's saying spot today. Good. I think you meant spot on today. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to my spiritual team for saying this is an important energy to know for today. The talking stick. Yeah. Elise is saying, I think the artwork is beautiful. Worked in publications and computer publishing for 40. Oh, you did? Oh my goodness. That's a long time, 40 years. She says, wish I could help. Did the final aesthetics for the Amway Corp publications for years. Well, you and I should talk about something, huh? Because I'm looking for another editor. So anyway, we'll talk offline on that, and because that's a whole different conversation, right? So anyway, the talking stick. I like this one. It really, it brought back really good memories for me. The early days of when I first started using it with groups and actually using the feather, because my work had more to do with questions and answers, and using the feather and watching how people reacted to the eagle feather, because maybe they never held one, right? And smudging people before they came in, coming in as clean as possible, right? And leaving their burdens outside the door, right? Anyway, and some people had never held an eagle feather before, so it was that might have been their first opportunity, their first experience, and some people kind of got freaked out a little bit. Yeah, because for some people, not everybody, for some people, feathers will vibrate with them, because they recognize each other's energy. And so when you have an eagle feather vibrating in your hand and you've never held one before, sometimes that can be kind of disconcerting. Yeah. Judy's saying, amen, put her to work. That's funny, Judy. I think we might be able to figure something out, that's for sure. Yeah, and Robin is saying, oh, eagle feathers and their medicine is powerful. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And especially when you have a connection to it and you don't know it, because you've never held one, you've never seen one. And that first time can, like I said, it can be kind of disconcerting. Yeah. Jamie Sams, I like her poetry too. So here's her poem about the talking stick. She says, talking stick remind me of each sacred point of view, complete within the circle of the sacred hoop. Yeah. So everyone is valued. Everyone's feelings, what they have to say is valued, and that we have the opportunity to learn or remember how to really listen to someone as they speak, and and in return, right? And in return is to have ourselves to be heard and listened and respected, in our opinion. Doesn't mean that everybody has to agree with it, but to have the opportunity to be heard. And I think that everybody feels good after that too, right? I think so. Amy says that this is an amazing experience. Mm-hmm. I think so too. So we're starting a new work week, and show coming up tomorrow night for me and Communications from Home 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. My topic tomorrow night is about who's in your vibe and who's not. And that's all about, because so many people are talking about it right now, that we have such a change going on. A lot of people are experiencing a vibrational change. And what happens? Who is in your circle and who's not anymore? And so I thought that would be a good topic to talk about, share about, and how to make your way through that, right? Suggestions anyway. And then Polly Joe's show, Chakra Sessions, is on at noon Eastern time tomorrow, Tuesday. And I don't know if I have it up yet. Maybe not. Got too many windows open. I think I might have closed that one. Anyway, she is going to be, hang on, I can tell you in just a second. Just got to get to her information for June. She is talking about awakening your authentic self. Awakening your authentic self and using the chakras, right? And understanding how that flows through our chakras. And so that's at noon. And then Wednesday night, she's back. Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 Central, is her weekly show called Soul Connections. Soul Connections. And really that is an hour of healing. It's meant for us to be able to work with our individual teams. She provides the sacred space and the channeled meditation for that. And it's really to help the healers heal, because lots of times, the light workers sometimes don't take time for themselves. And so she's offering this opportunity, and she also does a card draw afterwards. And so we have a couple of shows coming up that I think you might be interested in. Hey, Polly Jo, yep, authentic self. Jolene says, meeting with 2 of my drumming girls for lunch. I'm sure this info will come in handy. Can't wait to share. Well, good. Yay. That would be a fun topic for a girls' lunch out, I think. Your drumming friends. And I also want to let you know that we are working on some dates. Polly Jo is going to be here in Wisconsin, October, I believe it's 5th and 6th that weekend. She's going to be teaching about the heart chakra and doing some healing work around the heart chakra. Yeah, Polly Jo is coming to Wisconsin. Yay! Can't wait. She's also got some, if you want a personal healing session with her, she's doing a couple on Friday and a couple on Monday of that weekend. So we're going to get the information. I've got my fingers crossed, get this week, and get that posted. So if you guys want to come up, come over, come down, however you want to get around the lake or come up to Wisconsin, you guys can take a look at the information and see if that resonates with you to come and join us for that weekend. Minnie and I are teaching a class on September 22nd. We're teaching Hogwarts. I think she's calling it 101. Divination, lots of good stuff coming out of that class. For those of you who are familiar with the Great Lakes Retreat over in Olivet, Michigan, Minnie and I taught this class together years and years ago, and so we're gonna do a kind of a spin on it, and that's in September 22nd weekend. I'm looking for a date in August to do a shamanic weekend. Some people haven't done a shamanic journey yet and want to do their first one with me. And so we're going to open that up. I'm going to select a date in August, and we're going to do that here on a weekend, definitely all day Saturday, and maybe just a little bit on Sunday morning, so that people can drive back to where they're coming from and still have a good night's sleep before they go to work on Monday. Polly Jo's can't wait. I know. Can't wait for Polly Joe. That's going to be a good one in October. We're going to get that listed so you guys can take a look at it. So with that, that's kind of like a little update. We're going to get those listed for you guys. All right. And if you ever have any questions, you can send me a private message or here at Messenger. You can contact me at send an email to me at sacredhoop.net. You can do that too and ask me whatever you'd like to ask, and I'll try to answer it the best I can. Amy is asking, is tonight at 7 p.m.? Yes, 7 p.m. Central. Yeah, for us, Amy, it would be 7 p.m. Mm-hmm. Elise says, can we take the class online? Which one? Which class, Elise? The Hogwarts or Polly Joe's class? The Hogwarts one, no. Sorry, can't do that one. Polly Joe does have some classes that she is going to be teaching online, and so that's a possibility. I don't know. Polly Joe and I haven't really talked about that one. And Judy is asking, I could just jump right on the SS Badger someday. It parks. It does right behind your house. That's good to know. That's good to know. You know, I used to make that drive over to Michigan. God, every month practically. Sometimes twice a month. I told Paul, I said, we should just buy a cabin or something over there because I was on the road all the time between here and Michigan. And Robin says, thank you, and everyone. Glad I stuck around. Time to get to the TB test. Okay, good. Yeah, we got to get rolling too. I don't like keeping you guys too long. I know everybody is so busy, and to be able to spend some time like this, having our tea or our coffee and talking about the energy for the day through Jamie Sam's cards, I enjoy it, and I'm so glad that you guys do too. And yeah, so have a good rest of the day, good Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern, and we'll talk about tomorrow's energy. Okay? All right. Have a good day. Bama Mina, Padawanami for until we see each other again.